Please keep in mind as we read on with this treaty that Article 6 states the supremacy clause of the United States Constitution. So in Article 6, Clause 2, it reads, "This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding." And this is where we left off. Let's continue with Part 2. Each state party to the present covenant undertakes to respect and to ensure to all individuals within its territory and subject to its jurisdiction the rights recognized in the present covenant without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status, were not already provided for by existing legislative or other measures. Each state party to the present covenant undertakes to take the necessary steps in accordance with its constitutional processes and with the provisions of the present covenant to adopt such laws or other measures as may be necessary to give the effect to the rights recognized in the present covenant. Each state party to the present covenant undertakes to ensure that any person whose rights or freedoms as herein recognized are violated shall have an effective remedy, notwithstanding that the violation has been committed by persons acting in official capacity. To ensure that any person claiming such a remedy shall have his right thereto determined by competent judicial, administrative, or legislative authorities, or by other competent authority provided for by the legal systems of the state, and to develop the possibilities of judicial remedy. To ensure that the competent authorities shall enforce such remedies when granted. Article 3. The states parties to the present covenant undertake to ensure the equal right of men and women to the enjoyment of all civil and political rights set forth in the present covenant. In time of public emergency, which threatens the life of the nation and the existence of which is officially proclaimed, the states parties to the present covenant may take measures derogating from their obligations under the present covenant to the extent strictly required by the exigencies of the situation, provided that such measures are not inconsistent with their other obligations under international law and do not involve discrimination solely on the ground of race, color, sex, language, religion, or social origin. No derogation from Articles 6, 7, 8, paragraphs 1 and 2, 11, 15, 16, and 18 may be made under this provision. Any state parties to the present covenant availing itself of the right of derogation shall immediately inform the other states parties to the present covenant, the intermediary of the Secretary General of the United Nations, of the provisions from which it has derogated, and of the reasons by which it was actuated. A further communication shall be made through the same intermediary on the date on which it terminates such derogation. Nothing in the present covenant may be interpreted as implying for any state, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or perform any act aimed at the destruction of any of the rights and freedoms recognized herein, or at their limitation to a greater extent than is provided for the present covenant. There shall be no restriction upon or derogation from any of the fundamental human rights recognized or existing in any state party to the present covenant pursuant to law, conventions, regulations, or custom on the pretext that the present covenant does not recognize such rights or that it recognizes them to a lesser extent. Article 6. Every human being has the inherent right to life. This right shall be protected by law. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his life. In countries which have not abolished the death penalty, sentence of death may be imposed only for most serious crimes in accordance with the law in force at the time of the commission of the crime, and not contrary to the provisions of the present covenant and to the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. This penalty can only be carried out pursuant to a final judgment rendered by a competent court. When deprivation of life constitutes the crime of genocide, it is understood that nothing in this article shall authorize any state party to the present covenant to derogate in any way from any obligation assumed under the provisions of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Anyone sentenced to death shall have the right to seek pardon or commutation of the sentence. Amnesty, pardon, or commutation of the sentence of death may be granted in all cases. Sentence of death shall not be imposed for crimes committed by persons below 18 years of age and shall not be carried out on pregnant women. Nothing in this article shall be invoked to delay or to prevent the abolition of capital punishment by any state party to the present covenant. Article 7. No one shall be subjected to torture or cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. In particular, no one shall be subjected without his free consent to medical or scientific experimentation. Article 8. No one shall be held in slavery. Slavery and the slave trade in all their forms shall be prohibited. No one shall be held in servitude. No one shall be required to perform forced or compulsory labor. Paragraph 3. Shall not be held to preclude in countries where imprisonment with hard labor may be imposed as a punishment for a crime, the performance of hard labor in pursuance of a sentence to such punishment by a competent court. For the purpose of this paragraph, the term forced or compulsory labor shall not include any work or service not referred to in subparagraph normally required of persons who is under detention in consequence of a lawful order of a court or of a person during conditional release from such detention. Any service of a military character and in countries where conscientious objection is recognized. Any national service required by law of conscientious objectors. Any work or service which forms part of normal civil obligations. Follow for more, and I'll continue reading after Article 9.